Millionaire lent his card for 3 days, but cried when he saw what she bought. Sarah Harrison held her 9-month-old son against her chest while her hands trembled, trying to swipe the card for the 3rd time at the payment terminal. The Horizon Market employee looked at her with a mix of pity and impatience, and she felt her face burn with shame when the word "declined" appeared on the screen again. It was in this moment of total desperation that an elegant man with graying hair approached the checkout. Without saying a word, he took a gold card from the inside pocket of his jacket and handed it to her. "Use this card for 3 days," he said in a firm but gentle voice. "Then come find me at this address." He placed a business card next to the bank card on the counter. Sarah looked at the stranger with suspicion, holding little Caleb even tighter. "I can't accept this, sir," she murmured, even though she knew she had no other choice. "So of course you can," replied the man, addressing the employee. "Put her purchases on my card." The baby began to cry louder, as if he knew his mother was going through a terrible moment. Sarah felt tears burning her eyes. She hadn't been able to buy formula for 2 days, and Caleb had been too restless. "Please accept it," insisted the stranger, seeing her hesitation. "A child should not go without." The employee, who wore a name tag that read Sam, waited in silence. Sarah noticed other people in line were starting to get impatient. Her dignity fought against a mother's desperation, but her son's hungry cry broke her resistance. "All right," she whispered, taking the card with trembling hands. "But I'll pay you back as soon as I can." The man smiled for the first time, and Sarah noticed a deep sadness in his brown eyes. "Use it without worry. 3 days. Then we'll talk." He walked away before she could ask his name, disappearing among the supermarket shelves as if he were an apparition. Sam rang up all the purchases: formula, diapers, some fruit and bread. Basic things Sarah had put in the cart with a heavy heart, knowing she probably wouldn't be able to pay for them. The transaction was approved instantly. Walking home with the heavy bags and Caleb finally calmer in her arms, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. Who was that man? Why would he help a complete stranger? And why did he specifically say 3 days? Her 2-room apartment was on the 4th floor of an old building in the center of the coastal town where she lived. Climbing the stairs with the baby and the groceries was always a challenge, but today it seemed even harder. The weight of the bags mixed with the weight of the humiliation she felt. Inside, Sarah prepared a bottle for Caleb with the new formula. While he drank eagerly, she examined the gold card carefully for the first time. There was no name, just numbers, and the logo of a bank she recognized as being for special clients. The business card was simple. "Arthur Sterling, find me at Oak Valley Boulevard, 847. No phone number, no company, just an address in the most affluent part of town. Sarah knew that area. She had worked as a nurse at Green Valley Medical Center there years ago, before her life completely fell apart. Huge houses, imported cars, people who never had to worry about having money to buy milk for their children. Caleb fell asleep in her arms after finishing the bottle. She placed him in the makeshift crib she had made from market crates, lined with clean blankets. It was all she could offer her son at the moment, but at least today he went to sleep with a full stomach. Sitting in the only chair in the kitchen, Sarah allowed herself to cry for the first time in weeks. Tears of relief, shame, gratitude, and fear all mixed together. Fear that it was all too good to be true. Fear that there was some catch. Fear of getting used to help that would only last 3 days. The next day, Sarah woke up determined to use the card only for essentials. She put on her best clothes, a pair of faded jeans and a blue blouse she'd gotten from a neighbor, and went with Caleb to the corner drugstore. The baby needed a specific medication for the skin irritation he developed when using cheaper diapers. At the drugstore, the clerk was extremely polite when Sarah presented the card. More polite than usual, actually. The young woman looked at the card with an expression of surprise, and then at Sarah with renewed curiosity. "Do you know the owner of this card?" she asked discreetly while processing the purchase. "Why do you ask?" Sarah felt her stomach tighten. "It's just... well, this card belongs to Mr. Arthur Sterling. He owns several businesses here in town, including the supermarket chain where you probably were yesterday. Everyone knows him." Sarah left the drugstore with her head spinning. A millionaire? Why would a millionaire help a stranger? That made everything even stranger and more frightening. On her way home, she passed by the Horizon Market where it had all begun. Without meaning to, she looked for Sam, the employee who had witnessed the scene. He was organizing products in the beverage aisle and waved when he saw her. "How's the baby?" he asked kindly. "Better, thank you. Sam, do you know that man who helped me yesterday?" Sam looked around to make sure no one was listening. "I do. He owns all of this." He made a wide gesture with his arms. "Mr. Arthur Sterling. But he rarely comes to the stores. Yesterday was a surprise for all of us." "Does he usually do this? Help strangers?" Sam thought for a moment before answering. "Look, he's always been a fair boss, pays well, treats everyone with respect. But I've never seen him do something like this. Actually, in recent years, he's been kind of distant, you know? They say he lost his family in a tragedy and was never the same." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. This information left Sarah even more unsettled. What tragedy? And why would that make him help a stranger with a baby? On the afternoon of the second day, she decided to use the card to buy proper clothes for job interviews. She had dropped off resumes in several places, but her clothes were so worn out she knew it hurt her chances. At the clothing store downtown, the saleswoman, a middle-aged lady named Joyce, was even more curious about the card than the pharmacist. "My dear, are you part of Mr. Arthur's family?" she asked bluntly. "No, he just lent me the card," Sarah replied, feeling her cheeks flush. Joyce seemed intrigued but didn't ask more questions until it was time to finalize the purchase. Then, as if she couldn't contain herself, she said, "You know, I've known this man for years. He used to buy clothes here for his wife and little boy. What a beautiful family they were. But after that terrible accident, he was never the same. Some say he blames himself for what happened." "What accident?" Sarah asked, though part of her knew she shouldn't be so curious. "Oh dear, it was about 5 years ago. His wife, Mrs. Eleanor, and their little boy, they were coming back from a trip when—" Joyce lowered her voice. "It was so sad. Since then, Mr. Arthur has practically disappeared from the town's social life. They say he spent months without leaving the house." Sarah left the store with a lump in her throat. Now he understood the sadness he had seen in the man's eyes. He had lost a family, and now he had encountered a desperate mother trying to care for her child alone. Was that the connection? Meanwhile, in the executive office of one of Arthur Sterling's companies, the financial manager, Gregory Vance, was analyzing his boss's bank transactions with growing curiosity. Gregory had always been ambitious and envious, traits he kept well hidden behind a facade of competence and loyalty. In the last 2 days, there had been strange transactions in Mr. Arthur's personal account. Small purchases in places a man of his status would never shop: a neighborhood drugstore, a simple clothing store, a supermarket. Someone was using his card, and Gregory was certain this could be useful for his own interests. Gregory discreetly hired a private detective to find out who was behind those purchases. His intentions were not noble. If he could get any kind of compromising information about his boss, perhaps he could finally get the promotion he so wanted, or even a stake in the business. On the morning of the third day, Sarah Harrison woke up with Caleb, feverish and irritable. The baby had spent the night crying, and she knew she would need to take him to the doctor. Her heart tightened at the thought of the cost of a private consultation, but her son's health came first. At the nearest pediatric clinic, the receptionist nearly choked when she saw the gold card. "Are you sure you can use this card?" she asked, clearly impressed. "I have authorization," Sarah replied, trying to sound confident. The consultation revealed something that left her panicked. The pediatrician, Dr. Bennett, explained that Caleb had developed a condition that required specialized and expensive treatment. It was nothing that put his life at immediate risk, but without proper treatment, it could cause serious developmental problems. "We'll need some specific tests and medications that aren't cheap," the doctor explained gently, "plus frequent follow-ups with a specialist." Sarah felt her world collapsing. 3 days of help wouldn't be enough to cover something of this magnitude, but she had no choice. It was her son's health. While Sarah was dealing with this devastating discovery, Arthur Sterling was in his office, tracking every transaction made with his card through the bank's app. Each purchase told a story that touched him deeply. Powdered milk, diapers, baby medicine, simple clothes for interviews, a doctor's appointment. No superfluous spending, no attempt to take advantage of the situation. Just a mother trying to care for her child as best she could. Arthur remembered his own wife, Eleanor, buying similar things for little Thomas. The memories were painful, but for the first time in years they were also comforting. Seeing someone fighting with so much love for a child awakened something in him he thought he had lost forever. The office door opened without him noticing, lost in thought. It was Gregory holding a folder of documents. "Mr. Arthur, I need to speak with you about something important," said Gregory, feigning concern. "What is it, Gregory?" "Well, sir, I noticed some strange activity in your personal account. I think someone might be using your card without authorization." Arthur looked at the manager with a neutral expression. "And why were you monitoring my personal account?" Well, it's my responsibility to keep you informed about any irregularities," Gregory stammered slightly. "There is no irregularity. I lent my card." "Lent it?" Gregory couldn't hide his surprise. "To whom?" "That's none of your business, Gregory." But Gregory did not give up easily. In the following days, using his own resources and the detective he had hired, he discovered Mariana's identity. And when he saw a young single mother living in a modest apartment, his basest instincts took over. On the afternoon of the third day, Sarah was at home trying to calm Caleb when someone knocked on the door. She opened it and was met by a well-dressed man, around 40 years old, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sarah Harrison?" he asked. "Yes, that's me. Who are you?" "My name is Gregory Vance. I'm a manager at one of Mr. Arthur Sterling's companies. May we talk?" Sarah felt a chill in her stomach, but opened the door to let him in. Gregory looked around the small apartment with an expression that mixed disdain and calculation. "So you're the person using my boss's card," he said, sitting down without being invited. "He lent it to me for 3 days. Today is the last day." "Oh, really? And you didn't think it was strange for a millionaire to lend a no-limit credit card to a complete stranger?" Sarah didn't answer, but held Caleb tightly against her chest. "I'll be direct with you, Sarah. I know you need money, especially now that your son is sick. I can help you far more than Mr. Arthur ever could." "I don't understand." Gregory moved closer, and Sarah felt uncomfortable with the proximity. "What Mr. Arthur did was a temporary kindness. But I can offer something permanent. A well-paid job, a better apartment, health insurance for your son, everything you need." "In exchange for what?" Sarah asked, though she feared the answer. "In exchange for your companionship. I'm a single, successful man. You're a beautiful woman in a difficult situation. We can help each other." Sarah felt nauseous. "Get out of my home, now." "Don't be hasty, Sarah. Think about it. If you don't accept my proposal, I'll tell Mr. Arthur that you've been using his card to buy things for yourself, not just for the baby. I can easily make it look like you're taking advantage of his kindness." "That's not true. Every cent was spent on my son." "Who will believe you? A desperate single mother against a respected businessman." Caleb began to cry, as if sensing the tension in the air. Sarah stood up, trembling with anger. "I said get out. If you don't leave, I'll scream until the neighbors come." Gregory laughed coldly. "Fine. But you have until tomorrow to decide. Either accept my proposal, or I tell Mr. Arthur you're a con artist. The choice is yours." He left, leaving Sarah in a state of shock. How was this happening? In less than an hour, she would need to return the card to Mr. Arthur, and now there was a horrible man threatening to destroy her only chance to explain the situation. She spent the next afternoon in agony, pacing back and forth in the small apartment with Caleb in her arms. The baby was still feverish, and she knew she would need to continue the treatment recommended by the pediatrician. But how would she do that now? At 5 in the afternoon, she dressed in one of the new clothes she had bought and took a bus to Oak Valley Boulevard. The house at number 847 was even more imposing than she had imagined, a white 2-story house surrounded by well-kept gardens. Sarah rang the doorbell with trembling hands. A uniformed maid opened the door. "Good afternoon. I've come to return something to Mr. Arthur Sterling. He is expecting you. Please come in." The inside of the house was elegant, but not ostentatious. Sarah was led to a study where Arthur was sitting behind a mahogany desk, reading some documents. He looked up when she entered and smiled, the same sad smile she remembered from the market. "Sarah, right? Please have a seat." She sat in the chair in front of the desk, adjusting Caleb on her lap. Arthur watched the baby with an indescribable expression. "How is the little one?" He needs specialized medical treatment," Sarah said, her voice coming out weaker than she intended. "Yes, I received a call from Dr. Bennett early this morning. He told me about the condition." Sarah blinked, confused. "A call? I asked him to keep me informed about any appointments made with my card, not to monitor you, but to make sure everything went smoothly." She took the gold card from her purse and placed it on the table. "Thank you for the 3 days. I don't know how to thank you." "No need to thank me. In fact, you need to listen to me about some important things." At that moment, the office door opened and Gregory entered without knocking. Sarah felt her blood run cold. "Mr. Sterling, good. She's already here. I need to tell you about this woman before it's too late." Arthur looked at the manager with an expression Sarah couldn't decipher. "Gregory, I don't recall calling for you." "Sir, this woman is taking advantage of you. I discovered she has been using your card to buy things for herself, lying about the child's needs." "That's a lie," Sarah exclaimed, rising from the chair. "Gregory, sit down," Arthur said calmly. "Mr. Sterling, you don't understand. She's an experienced con artist. I bet she's done this before with other wealthy men in town." "Enough!" The firm voice cut through the air, but it hadn't come from Arthur or Sarah. They turned to see a woman with grey hair standing in the doorway. It was Martha, Arthur's longest-serving secretary, who had worked with him for over 15 years. "Ms. Martha, you shouldn't be here," Gregory said nervously. "Gregory, you are a despicable man," she replied, entering the office. "And you, Mr. Sterling, need to know the truth about this young lady." Arthur and Sarah looked at the secretary expectantly. "This young woman here is not a con artist. She is Sarah Harrison, the nurse who cared for Mrs. Eleanor and Thomas during their final days at the hospital." The silence that followed was deafening. Arthur looked at Sarah as if seeing her for the first time. "The nurse who sang to Thomas?" Martha nodded. "The same one who stayed after her shift to make sure they were comfortable. The same one who held your hand, Mr. Sterling, when you couldn't stop crying." Sarah remembered. She remembered the devastated man who spent days and nights at the hospital refusing to go home. She remembered the delicate wife bravely fighting the illness. She remembered the little boy, about the same age Caleb is now. But what is she doing here? How did she end up in this situation? Arthur asked, confused. "Because this wretch here," Martha pointed at Gregory, "made a false accusation against her years ago." "Ms. Martha, you are saying too much," Gregory said, clearly nervous. "Gregory accused Sarah of stealing medication from the hospital. He brazenly lied to the administrator, saying he had seen her putting medicine in her bag." "That's not true," Gregory protested. "Of course it's not true. What Sarah was doing was separating medication that was nearing its expiration date and taking it to the needy community where she did volunteer work. It was all authorized by the hospital pharmacy, but Gregory twisted the story." Arthur looked at Gregory with an expression he had never shown before. Pure anger. "Go on, Martha." "Because of the false accusation, Sarah was fired. Her reputation in the healthcare field was tarnished, and she couldn't get another job as a nurse. She was forced to take low-paying jobs to survive." Sarah felt tears burning her eyes as she relived that terrible time in her life. "But why would Gregory do that?" Arthur asked. "Because he was romantically interested in her, and she rejected him. It was pure revenge," Martha explained. "And now," she continued, "this despicable man had the nerve to blackmail her yesterday, offering help in exchange for personal favors." Arthur slowly rose from his chair. Sarah had never seen anyone so controlledly furious. "Gregory, you're fired. I want you out of the building in 1 hour, And if I ever hear that you've approached this family again, I'll make sure you never work anywhere in this town again." "Mr. Sterling, you can't do this. I've worked for you for years," Gregory protested desperately. "You can leave on your own, or I can call security to escort you out." Gregory stormed out, but not before throwing a hateful look at Sarah. She knew this wasn't over. When they were alone, Arthur, Sarah, Caleb, and Martha, silence once again reigned in the office. "Sarah," Arthur said softly, "forgive me for not recognizing you immediately. Those were the hardest days of my life, and many memories are hazy. I understand. They were hard days for me too, seeing you all suffer so much. You used to sing that song, and how did it go again?" Sarah smiled for the first time in days. "Rock-a-bye, baby. Thomas always calmed down when I sang it." Arthur closed his eyes, remembering. "Eleanor told me on the last day that you were an angel, that God had placed you there to care for us in those moments. I was just doing my job. No, you were doing much more than that. And I let a lie destroy your career without even investigating. You didn't know. But I should have. I should have trusted the person who cared for my family with such tenderness." Martha approached and placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder. "Dear, I need to tell you something that might shock you even more." Sarah looked at the secretary with apprehension. "What is it?" "Thomas. He had the same condition your little boy has now." Arthur sank heavily into his chair, as if he'd been punched in the stomach. "The same condition?" "Yes. That's why Dr. Bennett called me this morning. He thought the coincidence was very strange and wanted to confirm if I knew about the connection." Arthur looked at Caleb, who slept peacefully in his mother's arms, unaware of the drama unfolding around him. "My God. It's as if fate is giving me a second chance." "A second chance for what?" Sarah asked. "To do things differently, to not let a child suffer when I can help, to not fail again." "You didn't fail, Thomas. His illness was much more serious. But I could have done more. I could have invested more in research. I could have sought experimental treatments in other countries. I could have—" "Arthur," Sarah interrupted him, using his first name for the first time, "you did everything within your power. I saw with my own eyes the love and care you dedicated to your family." They were silent for a few minutes, absorbing the magnitude of this meeting that seemed orchestrated by fate. "Sarah," Arthur finally said, "I want to pay for all of Caleb's treatment, and I want to offer you a job." "I can't accept charity. It's not charity, it's justice, and it's an opportunity for both of us to heal old wounds." "How so?" "I'm opening a pediatric health center in the neediest part of town. I need a head nurse who understands not just medicine, but compassion. Someone who knows that caring for sick children means caring for entire families." Sarah felt her heart race. It was more than she had dared to dream. "The salary will be commensurate with your experience and responsibility. You would have comprehensive health insurance for you and Caleb, meal vouchers, and profit sharing from the center. Why are you doing this? Because you deserve a second chance in the career you love, and because I need to find a purpose to keep on living." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. In the days that followed, Arthur and Sarah worked together planning the health center. It was a strange experience for both of them. He, accustomed to making cold, calculated business decisions, now had to consider the human aspect of every choice. She, used to fighting alone for every small victory, now had unlimited resources to do the good she had always wanted to do. Leo's treatment began immediately. Arthur insisted on personally attending every appointment, not out of distrust, but from a genuine interest in the child's well-being. Sarah noticed how he watched Leo with a mix of affection and nostalgia that touched her deeply. During one of the appointments, Dr. Bennett commented on the baby's rapid improvement. "It's impressive how well he's responding to treatment. With the proper resources and constant monitoring, the chance of a full recovery is over 90%. Arthur smiled, the first genuine smile Sarah had seen from him. "Thomas didn't get that chance," he murmured. "But Leo does," Sarah replied gently, "and that's what matters now." Meanwhile, Gregory had not given up his thirst for revenge. Fired and humiliated, he began spreading rumors around town about the supposed relationship between Arthur and Sarah. He told anyone who would listen that she was a gold digger who had seduced the wealthy boss to get money. The rumors reached Arthur's ears through Martha, who was furious. "Sir, this man is a cancer. He needs to be stopped." "What exactly is he saying?" Arthur asked. "Terrible things, that Sarah planned the meeting at the market, that she researched your family to manipulate your feelings, that you have an intimate relationship in exchange for money." Arthur was silent for a long moment. "And are people believing it?" "Some are. You know how small this town is and how it loves gossip. I need to talk to Sarah about this." That afternoon, Arthur went to Sarah's apartment. She greeted him with a smile, but he noticed something different in her demeanor. She was more reserved, less at ease. "Leo is sleeping," she said, serving coffee. "He had an appointment this morning and the doctor said everything is progressing well. Sarah, I need to talk to you about some unpleasant things that are happening." She sighed. "If it's about the rumors, I've already heard." "You've heard? How?" "The owner of the little market downstairs made a point of telling me that everyone is talking about us. According to her, I'm a gold-digging woman taking advantage of a man who is still grieving the loss of his family." Arthur felt anger rising in his chest. That's exactly what Gregory wanted to achieve. "Perhaps it's better if I distance myself for a while. I don't want your reputation harmed because of me. Sarah, look at me." She raised her eyes and he saw determination mixed with sadness. "I don't care in the slightest what people think. What matters is that we're doing what's right. You're taking care of your son and returning to the career you love. I'm finding a reason to use my resources meaningfully. If that bothers some small-minded people in this town, that's their problem." "But I do care, Arthur. Not because I'm ashamed of our friendship, but because I don't want you to be judged for helping someone in need. You know what we're going to do?" "What?" "Let's speed up the opening of the health center. When people see the serious work we're doing together, when they see how many families will benefit, these petty rumors will die on their own." And that's exactly what they did. Arthur invested not only money, but time and personal energy into the project. Sarah worked tirelessly on planning the services, training the team, and defining care protocols. The center would be different from anything else in town. In addition to medical care, it would offer psychological support for families, nutritional guidance, educational programs on child health, and a home monitoring system for cases needing special care. During the weeks of preparation, Arthur and Sarah developed a working partnership that surprised them both. He discovered that his business skills complemented her practical knowledge and human sensitivity perfectly. Sarah discovered she had a natural talent for management and strategic planning. "You should consider taking a business administration course," Arthur commented one day after she presented a detailed plan to optimize appointment scheduling. "Me, I never thought about that. I think you have potential for much more than just nursing, as important as that profession is. I don't have the money to pay for a college course. The company can sponsor your studies. Consider it compensation for the years of work that were lost because of an injustice." Sarah was moved by the offer, but also apprehensive. "People will say you're spoiling me." "Sarah, you need to stop worrying so much about what others think and start worrying about what you deserve to have in life." 2 weeks before the center's inauguration, something unexpected happened. Sarah was leaving Caleb's follow-up appointment when she was approached by an unknown woman in the clinic parking lot. "Are you Sarah Harrison?" the woman asked. "Yes, I am. Can I help you?" "My name is Rachel Foster. I'm the ex-wife of Gregory Vance." Sarah felt a chill in her stomach. "Oh, it might seem strange for me to be here, but I need to tell you something important." "What is it?" "Gregory is planning something to disrupt the center's inauguration. Last night he was drunk and talking about finishing off that busybody once and for all." "What kind of thing is he planning? Is he?" "I don't know exactly, but I heard him talking on the phone with someone about fake documents and an anonymous complaint." "Fake documents?" "I think he's trying to forge evidence that you or Mr. Arthur did something wrong related to the center. Maybe problems with permits or financial issues. I'm not sure." Sarah thanked Rachel for the information and immediately called Arthur. They met at his office, where she told him everything she had learned. "Doesn't surprise me," Arthur said, seeming more tired than worried. Gregory has always been resentful. What are we going to do? We'll get ahead of it. I'll have our lawyers review all the center's documents to make sure everything is perfect, and I'll hire a security firm to investigate what Gregory is plotting. Do you think he can really cause serious problems? He can try, but I won't let the malice of a small man destroy something that can help so many people. The investigation revealed that Gregory was indeed preparing a false complaint, alleging irregularities in the center's documentation and suggesting Arthur was using the health project to launder money from other illicit activities. The idea was absurd, but he hoped the authorities would be forced to investigate, causing delays and tarnishing Arthur's reputation. Moreover, Gregory had falsified some documents that proved Sarah had stolen medication in the past, not only at the hospital but also at other places where she had worked. "This man is more dangerous than we imagined," said Arthur's lawyer after reviewing the evidence they had gathered. "He is willing to commit serious crimes to harm them." "What do we do?" Sarah asked, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. "We get ahead of him again," Arthur replied. "We will present all the evidence we have against Gregory to the proper authorities, including the document forgery and the attempted extortion that Rachel confirmed witnessing." "But won't this become a public scandal?" "Perhaps, but it's better for the truth to come out than to allow him to keep spreading lies." During the week of the center's opening, the situation resolved itself unexpectedly. Rachel Foster, moved by the guilt of having been married to such a petty man, decided to go directly to the authorities to report her ex-husband's illegal activities. She brought with her recordings of conversations where Gregory admitted to lying about Sarah years ago and described his revenge plans in detail. She also presented documents proving he had forged receipts to frame Sarah. Gregory was caught red-handed, trying to deliver fake documents to a local journalist he had bribed to publish a defamatory story about Arthur and Sarah. "Justice has finally been served," Martha commented when they learned of the arrest. "It's not about justice," Sarah said. "It's about being able to move forward without looking back." The day of the New Beginnings Pediatric Center opening was a milestone for the entire community. Arthur had insisted on the name New Beginnings because, according to him, that's what the project represented for everyone involved. Sarah was nervous, wearing a new lab coat with her name embroidered. Sarah Harrison, head nurse. Caleb, now fully recovered thanks to the treatment, was in Martha's arms as she had volunteered to babysit during the event. "Ready?" Arthur asked, adjusting his tie. "I think so. And you?" "More ready than I've been for anything in the last 5 years." The community turned out in full force. There were mothers with young children, elderly people curious about the services, representatives from other health organizations, and even some local politicians who wanted to be associated with the project. Arthur gave an emotional speech about the importance of caring for children as a way to build a better future for everyone. Sarah spoke about her own experience as a mother and a nurse, and how the center represented the fulfillment of a dream to serve the community. But the most touching moment came when an elderly lady in the audience stood up to speak. "I want to say something to you two," said Mrs. Pearl, who was a retired midwife and had helped bring half the town's children into the world. "I've lived 80 years in this town, and I've never seen two people come together to do good so beautifully. You are an example to all of us." The applause was long and warm. Arthur and Sarah looked at each other, both with tears in their eyes, recognizing they had found something far more valuable than they had imagined at the start of that journey. In the months that followed, the center became a regional benchmark for pediatric care. Sarah enrolled in a hospital administration course, studying at night while working during the day. Arthur discovered a passion for social projects that had been dormant during years of focusing exclusively on business. Caleb grew up healthy and cheerful, often playing in Arthur's office when Sarah had to work late. Arthur Sterling found himself enchanted watching the child grow, and Sarah Harrison noticed how it healed old wounds in his heart. "Sometimes I think Thomas sent Caleb to us," Arthur commented one day, watching Caleb take his first steps in the garden of his home. "Maybe," Sarah replied. "Or perhaps life was preparing us for this moment all along." The friendship between them was evolving naturally into something deeper, but both were cautious. Arthur didn't want Sarah to feel pressured or indebted to him, Sarah didn't want anyone to say she was involved with Arthur out of interest. It was Caleb who, in a way, forced the situation. On a Saturday afternoon, playing in the garden of Arthur's house, the 1.5-year-old boy called Arthur Daddy for the first time. The silence that followed was profound. Arthur looked at Sarah with an expression of total vulnerability. I'm sorry. I didn't teach him that, Sarah said nervously. Don't apologize, Arthur replied, his voice choked. Actually, it made me realize something I've been trying to ignore. What? That I've fallen in love with both of you, with the brave mother and the sweet son, that I want to be part of your family, if you want to be part of mine. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Arthur, you don't have to answer now. You just need to know that my feeling is true and has nothing to do with charity, pity, or obligation. It has to do with love. I love you too, she whispered. But I'm afraid people will say it's for interest, that I'm taking advantage of you. Sarah, please stop giving small-minded people power over our happiness. They kissed for the first time there in the garden, with Caleb clapping enthusiastically as if he knew something important was happening. 6 months later, Arthur and Sarah married in a simple ceremony in the chapel of the very medical center. Caleb was the ring-bearer, carrying the rings on a little cushion that Martha had made especially for him. The reception was a community celebration, with live music in the center's garden and food prepared by several families who had benefited from the medical services. During the ceremony, Arthur read a letter he had written to Eleanor and Thomas. My eternal loves, I have found a new family to love, but you will always have your special place in my heart. I believe you sent Sarah and Caleb to teach me that it's possible to love again without forgetting those we loved before. Thank you for allowing me to be happy again. Sarah also read a letter, dedicated to all mothers who struggle alone. To every woman who has ever felt lost and without hope, our story is proof that life can surprise us when we least expect it. May we never lose faith in the kindness of people and the possibility of starting over. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we are just starting out. Now, continuing. The first year of marriage brought unexpected challenges and joys. Sarah graduated with honors in hospital administration, presenting as her final project a study on humanized management in healthcare facilities, based on her experience running the center. Arthur expanded the project, opening 2 more centers in neighboring towns. Each unit was run by professionals who shared the same philosophy of comprehensive family care. Caleb, now almost 3, was a vibrant and affectionate child who had completely won Arthur's heart. The boy called him Daddy, naturally, and Arthur had begun the legal adoption process. I want Caleb to have my last name, he told Sarah one day. Not because mine is better than yours, but because I want him to know officially that he is my son too. And I want him to grow up knowing the story of how we found each other, Sarah Harrison replied, so he understands that family isn't just who you're born with, but who you choose to stay with. Sarah's professional life flourished in ways she had never imagined. Beyond managing the health centers, she began giving lectures on humanized management to other professionals in the field. Her personal story of overcoming adversity inspired other professionals who had faced similar injustices. Arthur Sterling discovered a passion for mentoring, guiding other entrepreneurs who wanted to use their resources for social projects. He created a foundation dedicated to supporting child health initiatives in underprivileged communities. You know what amazes me most about our story? Arthur commented one evening as they were putting Caleb to sleep. What? How every difficult moment we went through prepared us for this moment. Your struggles made you stronger and more compassionate. My loss taught me the value of every day with the ones we love. And now? Now we've built something bigger than ourselves. The local community had visibly transformed since the opening of the health centers. The infant mortality rate had dropped drastically. Mothers who previously had no access to proper medical care now received follow-up from pregnancy through their children's early years. But the impact went beyond physical health. The centers offered professional development workshops for mothers, psychological support for families in crisis, and educational programs that strengthened community bonds. You've created more than a health center. the mayor commented during an awards ceremony. "You've created a model for how the private sector can work together with the community to transform lives." Arthur and Sarah were honored with the title of Citizens of the Year, but they insisted the real recognition came from the families who had benefited from the services. In their second year of marriage, Sarah discovered she was pregnant. The news brought a mix of joy and apprehension. "What if something goes wrong?" she confessed her fears to Arthur. "Then we'll face it together, as we always have. But we have to believe everything will be all right." "Will Caleb be jealous?" "Caleb is going to be the best big brother in the world." And that's exactly what happened. When little Ivy was born, Caleb took on his role as protective brother with adorable seriousness. He insisted on helping change diapers, sang the same songs Sarah had sung to him when he was a baby, and always asked if his little sister was happy. Arthur marveled at seeing his family grow. He had missed the chance to see Thomas grow up completely, but now he had the opportunity to witness every moment of Caleb and Ivy's development. "Sometimes I'm afraid this is all a dream," Sarah confessed one night, nursing Ivy while Arthur read a story to Caleb. "If it is a dream, I hope I never wake up," he replied, kissing her forehead. The Sterling family became known in the region not only for their social projects, but for the example of unity and purpose they represented. They participated actively in community life, always available to support important causes. Sarah specialized in non-profit organization management and began advising other wealthy families who wanted to invest in social projects. Arthur expanded his businesses, but always with the philosophy that profit should come alongside social responsibility. When Caleb turned 5 and Ivy 2, the family decided to take a special trip. Not abroad or to luxurious resorts, but to visit all the communities that had been helped by the health centers. It was an emotional journey. In every town, they were welcomed as heroes. Children who had been treated at the centers ran to hug Arthur and Sarah. Mothers shared stories of how the care they received had changed their lives. In one of the towns, a young nurse approached Sarah. "Mrs. Sarah, I want to thank you for inspiring me to follow this profession. I heard your story in a lecture and decided I wanted to care for children the way you cared for me when I was little." Sarah was confused. "What do you mean?" "You don't remember? 7 years ago, when my mother took me to the hospital with severe pneumonia, you cared for me throughout my entire stay. You sang Rockabye Baby to help me sleep. You stayed by my side when I was scared." Sarah remembered. It was from the time when she still worked at the hospital, before her life fell apart and was rebuilt. "You've grown so much and become a nurse. Because of you. You planted a seed back then that blossomed years later." Arthur watched the scene with pride. Sarah had touched more lives than she imagined, long before they even met. "You know what this means," he said later. "What?" "That you were always special. I just had the luck to recognize it." During that trip, they decided to expand their work even further. They would create a school to train pediatric nurses, specialized in compassionate care. It would be a center of excellence that would prepare professionals to work not just technically, but emotionally with children and families. The school would be built next to the first health center, creating an integrated complex for teaching and care. Students could learn theory and practice simultaneously, always under the supervision of experienced professionals. "It will be our greatest long-term contribution," Arthur explained during a meeting with investors. "We will train a generation of professionals who understand that caring for children is caring for the future of society." The school project brought national recognition. Arthur and Sarah were invited to speak at universities and medical conferences across the country. Their personal story had become a case study on how partnerships between the private sector and healthcare professionals can generate sustainable social impact. But the most significant moment came 5 years after the first meeting at Horizon Market. Arthur had decided to do something special to mark the date. He organized a surprise party at the first health center, inviting all the families who had been served since its opening. There were over 1,000 people, including fathers, mothers, children, healthcare professionals, and community members. When Sarah arrived, thinking it would just be a work meeting, she found herself facing an emotional celebration. There were photos on the walls showing the project's evolution, recorded testimonials from helped families, and a detailed timeline of the 5 years of work. In the center of the main hall, there was a plaque, in honor of Sarah Harrison Sterling, who taught us that caring with love multiplies healing. "Arthur, this is crazy," she said, moved. "It's not crazy, it's gratitude." Caleb, now 6 years old, climbed onto the makeshift stage and took the microphone. "My mom is the best nurse in the world, and my dad is the best businessman in the world. Together they save little kids." The audience laughed and applauded enthusiastically. Ivy, 3 years old, didn't want to be left behind, and shouted from Martha's arms, "I'm gonna save little kids too when I grow up." Arthur took the microphone and gave his most moving speech. "5 years ago, I was a man lost in my own pain. I thought I had lost everything that mattered in life. Then I met a courageous mother who taught me that life always offers second chances to those brave enough to seize them." He looked at Sarah with infinite love. "Sarah, you didn't just accept my help on that difficult day. You allowed me to become part of something bigger than myself. Our family, our work, our mission to care for the children of this community, all of this is the result of your generous heart and your extraordinary strength." The celebration continued into the night, with music, dancing, and many stories being shared. Children who had been patients at the center returned to show how they were growing up healthy. Healthcare professionals spoke about how working at the center had transformed their own careers. But the most touching moment came when an elderly lady approached Arthur and Sarah. "Do you remember me?" she asked. She was the same woman who had been in the line at Horizon Market 5 years ago, witnessing their first meeting. "Mrs. Rose," Sarah exclaimed, recognizing her. "I wanted to say that on that day, seeing that kind man help a mother in distress, I thought, there is still goodness in the world. Today, seeing everything you've built together, I know I wasn't wrong." Arthur and Sarah looked at each other, remembering that moment that had changed their lives forever. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if you hadn't shown up that day," Sarah said to Arthur when they were alone after the party. "I don't know. Maybe I would have remained lost in my sorrow. Maybe you would have found another path to get back on your feet. But I'm certain fate put us there at that exact moment for a reason." "What reason?" "To show that true love isn't just romance. It's shared purpose. It's building something together that is greater than anything either could have built alone." In the years that followed, the Sterling family continued to grow in every sense. Not just numerically, they adopted another child, an orphan boy who had been a patient at the center, but also in social impact. The pediatric nursing school became a national reference. The health centers were replicated in dozens of cities. Arthur created an institute dedicated to training social entrepreneurs. Sarah wrote a book on humanized healthcare management that became required reading in universities. But the most important thing was what happened at home. Caleb had become a responsible and caring boy, already talking about becoming a doctor, to help children like my dad and mom do. Ivy was a joyful and determined child who organized hospital games where she always cared for her dolls with medical dedication. Leo, the adopted son, had adapted wonderfully to the family, bringing a special energy that completed the family dynamic. "Sometimes I think we're a crazy family," Arthur remarked one Sunday morning, watching the 3 children playing in the garden as he and Sarah had coffee. "Why crazy?" "Because we were born from such unlikely circumstances. Each of us arrived here in a different way, at different times, for different reasons. But somehow, we all fit together perfectly. Maybe that's what makes our family special," Sarah replied. "We weren't planned by nature or by society. We were chosen by the heart." 10 years after the first meeting at Horizon Market, Arthur and Sarah decided to take a second special trip. This time, they took their 3 children to see the place where it all began. Not just the market, but also the hospital where Sarah had cared for Arthur's first family. The hospital had undergone renovations, but still maintained the same essence of care that Sarah remembered. They were greeted by the medical director, who knew the couple's story and had invited Sarah several times to give lectures to the nursing staff. "Would you like to see the room where it all began?" the director asked. Arthur hesitated for a moment, but Sarah encouragingly held his hand. The room was empty at the moment, prepared to receive new patients. Arthur stood still in the doorway for a few seconds, absorbing the memories. Is this where you used to sing to Thomas? Caleb asked, breaking the silence. Yes, my love. Here and in other rooms too. Can you sing for us now? Arthur smiled through the tears that had begun to form. Of course you can. Sarah began to sing the same lullaby that had calmed Thomas years ago. Her voice echoed softly through the room, creating a bridge between the painful past and the present, abundant with love. The three children listened in respectful silence, sensing they were partaking in a very special moment for their parents. When the song ended, Arthur hugged the whole family. "Thank you for letting me come back here," he said to Sarah. "Thank you for letting me be part of your story," she replied. Leaving the medical center, they passed by the Horizon Market where it had all begun. Sam still worked there, now as the manager, and was moved to see the family. "How are the children?" he asked, immediately recognizing Caleb, who was now 11. "Growing up strong and healthy," Arthur answered. "And you, how is your family?" "Very well, thank you." My youngest son is graduating from medical school, inspired by your story." They talked for a few minutes, and Sam shared that many market employees had been helped by the health programs the couple had created. "You changed this town," he said, "not just with the health centers, but with the example you set. You showed that different people can come together to do good." On the way out of the market, Arthur stopped at the very spot where he had handed Sarah the card 10 years earlier. "If I had known at that moment everything that would come after, would I have done the same thing?" he wondered aloud. "And if I had known where this would lead us, would I have hesitated so much to accept your help?" Sarah completed the thought. "I think everything happened exactly as it was supposed to," Ivy, now 8 years old, said, with the peculiar wisdom of children. "If you had known everything before, maybe you wouldn't have been so brave." Arthur and Sarah laughed, impressed by their daughter's insight. "She's right," Leo, who was 10, agreed. "At school, the teacher said courage is doing the right thing, even when you're scared. You were brave that day." During the drive back home, the children fell asleep in the back seat. Arthur and Sarah took advantage of the silence to reflect on everything they had lived through. "Do you regret anything?" Arthur asked. "I regret taking so long to accept your help that first day," Sarah answered without hesitation. "And you?" "I regret not recognizing you immediately at the market. If I had remembered you from the start, maybe I could have kept you from going through so many hardships. But if you had recognized me, I would have thought you were helping me out of pity or obligation. It was better this way." "Perhaps you're right." They drove in silence for a while, each lost in their own thoughts. "Arthur?" "Yes?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For appearing in my life at the exact moment I needed hope the most. Thank you for teaching me it's possible to love again without betraying the memory of those we loved before." When they arrived home, they found Martha preparing dinner. At 70, she was still the most efficient secretary and the most loving stand-in grandmother the children could have. "How was the trip?" she asked. "Emotional," they answered almost in unison. "And necessary," Arthur added. "Sometimes we need to go back to the beginning to understand how far we've come." That night, after putting the three children to bed, Arthur and Sarah sat in their garden, watching the stars. "What do you think comes next?" Sarah asked. "I don't know, but I know we'll face it together, whatever it is. The health centers continuing to grow, the school training new professionals, the children developing, and us growing old together, watching all this continue even when we're no longer here to lead. Do you think about that? About not being here anymore? I think about leaving a legacy that's worthwhile. For our children, for the community, for the world. I think we're already doing that." A few months later, something happened that would test the family's strength once again. Arthur was diagnosed with a health issue that required intensive treatment. It wasn't fatal, but it would be a difficult period requiring changes to the entire family's routine. Sarah temporarily took on more responsibilities in managing the businesses, in addition to caring for Arthur and the children. It was a period of stress, but also of even greater family unity. The children organized themselves to help each in their own way. Caleb took on more household responsibilities. Ivy became her father's official nurse. reminding him to take his medicine and keeping him company during his rest periods. Leo dedicated himself to keeping the house's cheerful atmosphere, telling jokes and organizing fun activities. "You are the best medicine I could ever have," Arthur told his family one night when he felt particularly grateful. The treatment period also brought Arthur and Sarah even closer. She applied all the nursing knowledge she had developed over the years to his care, looking after him with the same professional dedication she applied to the patients at the centers. "Now I understand even better why you are such a special nurse," Arthur said. "You don't just treat the illness, you care for the whole person." "I learned that from caring for your first family," Sarah replied. "You all taught me that medicine without love is just technique." During the recovery period, they received hundreds of caring messages from the community. Families who had been helped by the health centers sent letters, drawings, flowers, and prayers. Staff organized themselves to keep all the projects running perfectly during the couple's temporary absence. "See," Sarah said, showing a stack of letters from children who had been patients at the centers. "You planted so much love that now you're getting it back multiplied." Arthur made a full recovery after a few months of treatment. The experience left the family even more aware of the importance of cherishing every moment together. To celebrate the recovery, they organized a special party at the main health center. It was a celebration of life, health, family, and community. During the party, an emotional surprise. A delegation of representatives from other countries arrived, wanting to learn about the care model developed by the Sterling family. "You've created something revolutionary," said a doctor from Switzerland. "The combination of technical excellence with humanized care is being studied at European universities." "It wasn't anything planned," Arthur replied modestly. "We just did what our hearts told us to do." "Perhaps that's exactly why it worked," the visitor replied. In the following years, the New Beginnings Center model was replicated in several countries. Arthur and Sarah were invited for international consulting, but they always insisted that the essence of the work wasn't in the protocols or structures, but in genuine love for people. Caleb graduated from medical school, specializing in pediatrics, as he had promised since he was little. Ivy chose child psychology, wanting to care for children's emotional health. Leo chose administration, focusing on managing social organizations. The three children worked together to carry on their parents' legacy, each contributing with their specific skills. "You have built something that will last for generations," Caleb said to his parents during a family strategic planning meeting. "No, my son," Arthur Sterling replied. "We planted a seed. It is you who will make it grow and flourish." 20 years after the first meeting at Horizon Market, Arthur and Sarah Harrison were grandparents to 5 grandchildren and respected leaders of a network of over 50 health centers spread across 3 countries. But what made them proudest wasn't the numbers or the international awards they had received. It was knowing that thousands of children had grown up healthy, thanks to the work that began with a simple act of kindness. If someone had told us that day at Horizon Market everything that would happen afterward, would we have believed it? Sarah asked one afternoon while they were organizing old photos. "Probably not," Arthur answered, "but perhaps it's better that way. If we had known our story would be so extraordinary, we might have been too intimidated to live it." They stopped at a photo from the center's 10-year anniversary party with the whole family gathered. "You know what moves me most in this photo?" Arthur said. "What?" "Seeing how each person there came to our family in a different way, yet they all belong completely. Caleb, whom you brought as a baby. Ivy, who was born from our love. Leo, whom we chose to adopt. Martha, who became a second mother to all of us. Even the employees who became family." "That's how the whole world should be," Sarah replied. "People caring for each other, regardless of how they met." On the eve of the 21st anniversary of their first meeting, Arthur prepared one last surprise for Sarah. He had organized a special ceremony at the original health center, gathering all the people who had been important on their journey. When Sarah arrived, she found not only family and employees, but also patients from 2 decades, professionals who had worked with them, authorities who had supported the projects, and even people who had only heard the story. In the center of the hall, there was a small tree planted in a special pot. This tree was cultivated with soil from all the places where we built health centers. Arthur explained. It represents how our story has put down deep roots in many places, but had a single origin. Sarah was moved. And now we will plant it in the garden here, so it may continue growing alongside our work. The planting ceremony was emotional. Each person present placed a handful of soil around the tree, symbolizing their contribution to the family's and the center's story. The children who had been patients 20 years ago, now adults with children of their own, spoke about how the care they received had impacted their lives. Healthcare professionals told how working at the centers had changed their view of medicine, but the most touching moment came when Rachel Foster, the ex-wife of Gregory Vance who had helped expose his lies years before, approached with her teenage daughter. "I want you to meet my daughter, Mia," said Rachel. "She was born premature and spent her first months of life in your center. Today, at 15, she is a healthy, intelligent young woman who wants to be a pediatrician." Mia timidly approached Arthur and Sarah. "I want to thank you for taking care of me when I was a baby. My mother told me you made sure to personally follow my case." Arthur and Sarah remembered perfectly. Mia had been one of the first complex cases treated at the center, and her recovery had been an important milestone for the entire team. "You have become a wonderful young woman," Sarah said, moved. "And you will be an extraordinary doctor," Arthur added. When the ceremony ended and the guests had left, the family was alone in the garden looking at the newly planted tree. "What do you think this tree will see in the next 20 years?" Ivy asked. "It will see you three continuing the work we started," Arthur answered. "It will see your grandchildren playing in this same garden," Sarah added. "It will see more children being cared for, more families being helped, more love being spread throughout the world," Caleb finished. Leo, always practical, asked a different question. "Do you think you'll be here to see all that?" Arthur and Sarah looked at each other. "Physically, perhaps not for all the years this tree will live," Arthur answered honestly. "But we will be here in the love we planted, in the work we built, in the family we formed. And especially," Sarah added, "we will be here in the values we passed on to you. Every time you care for someone with love, every time you help a person in difficulty, every time you choose to do good even when it's hard, we will be present." That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Arthur and Sarah stayed on the porch of their house, watching the lights of the medical centers they could see in the distance. "Are you satisfied with our story?" Arthur asked. "More than satisfied, I am grateful," Sarah replied. "Sarah, grateful for every difficult moment that brought us here, grateful for every person who crossed our path, grateful for every opportunity we had to make a difference. Even for the bad moments, for the poverty, the injustice, the slander. Especially for them. Without those moments, we would never have developed the compassion and strength needed to help other people going through the same problems." Arthur nodded, completely understanding what she meant. "Our story proves there are no useless experiences, right? Everything we lived through, good or bad, turned into a tool to help others. And it proves that true love isn't just romance. It's shared purpose. It's building something together that is greater than either could have built alone." They were silent for a while, each lost in their own reflections on the extraordinary journey they had lived together. "Sarah?" "Yes?" "If you could go back in time and change anything in our story, would you change it?" She thought for a long moment before answering. "I would change only one thing." "What?" "I would have us meet sooner, so we could have even more time together to do good." Arthur smiled, took her hand and kissed it gently. "I wouldn't change a thing. Not a single minute. Our story is perfect exactly as it happened, because it brought us exactly where we needed to be." And so, under the stars that had witnessed 21 years of love, struggle, growth and service to others, Arthur and Sarah Sterling embraced, knowing they had lived a story worth every tear, every sacrifice, every moment of uncertainty. A story that began with a card borrowed for 3 days and turned into a legacy of love that would last forever. End of story. This was a fictional story created to touch our hearts. Now tell us what you thought. Do you believe love can completely transform people's lives? Leave your opinion in the comments with sincere words. If this story moved you, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other inspiring stories. Thank you so much for your company.